All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the recording or Zoom session for the CSS 299 course. Today is March 22nd, 2017. We're going to cover just a little bit more in depth what it means actually to be a professional. We'll jump around through a few different screens. Hopefully by this point you've had an opportunity to go in and look at the course description and also look at the overall course objectives for this class. It's really critical, I believe, for students once you graduate, even before that, to have a very well prepared or very professional looking resume style. There's no true one best way to develop a resume, and that's another thing that I want you to keep in mind. Sometimes people tell you, oh, go out and use templates. Other times people tell you, oh, don't do that because maybe the generators online won't actually read my resume. There's a lot of things you have to keep in mind about how you apply for positions in your career field or careers that you're interested in applying for with your degrees. So some of those areas we'll go into a little bit deeper today. I'm going to go in and talk a little bit about an article that's embedded in your CSS 299 shell. It's actually on your home page. It's right here. It says what it means to be a professional. I'm going to jump around to a few different screens, so hang on and bear with me. Sometimes I lose a screen and we have to go back in, but we'll kind of navigate through that. I really want you to also start understanding the importance of networking and image management, and it's kind of your own personal PR when you get out in your career field. I know that a lot of us think that we live in a very large area, and I know when I met with Carrie the other day, we talked a little bit about, how small this community really is, and I gave her some examples of about people who had had a Halloween party, and well, she posted a cute picture. I thought it didn't look unprofessional to me of her in a pumpkin costume holding a glass of wine, but the potential extern site actually came back and said, we don't want her. And so you never want to jeopardize your professionalism just because you post a cute picture. Not that they should be holding that against you, because that's your personal world. However, they are trying to protect their best interests as well. So you've got to really think about that. I'm going to jump over now. I've already opened this link, and I'm going to click over to another screen. Hopefully we won't lose each other as we get going here. So what does it mean to be professional? In this article, she talks a little bit about, paying attention to the cultural norms in your organization and then following them. Not always will we fit into every single environment that we work in. It's something that we somewhat have to really work on as our own disposition to be successful. Sometimes we have different thoughts or beliefs or different ways of going about doing things that maybe the culture in the organization you work for doesn't do it that way. So it's critical that most of you understand the importance of being able to accept change and navigate yourself through those processes if that's the ideal job that you want to stay at. If it's not, that's the point when you really have to consider whether or not you need to look at finding a new career at a different office that maybe more fits your style or your disposition. So in here, I'm just going to kind of read through some of the blurbs. If you watch how others in your office operate, you'll learn all the sorts of important things about how we do things here. And that's kind of what I was just talking about. If they do it a little different than you've done at other jobs, maybe assess it. Don't always resist change. If you can, jump in and engage and try to do the best that you possibly can in those situations. Eventually, you will probably fit into the culture or become part of that cloth in that organization. The second one of the 10 that was listed in this article is being pleasant and polite to people, even if you don't like them. And sometimes this can be really challenging. You have to work with a lot of different people. You're going to have different diversities. You're going to have different cultures. You're going to have different beliefs and thoughts. And you're going to be working with young people and old people and middle-aged people. And we all have different ideologies about how the world works. The difference between a baby boomer who is more mature and developed and has a lot of experience might end up working with a team of 23 to 30-year-olds. And so life experience can really help navigate them Yet you'll also learn that their technological advancements that they know can also assist you later down the road. So everybody brings a unique variable to the table in a career in the employer's place of business that you work at. So being open to that is really important. If people get under your skin, don't let things fester. Be as professional as you can, be polite, try to talk to that person, make a couple of attempts. If you get shot down the first time, really, really, really try to figure out what it is that maybe you might personally be doing that person doesn't like. I know we always are the first to point fingers at others before we internalize and go, wow, maybe it's me. Not always is it us. And then if it doesn't work and maybe you find yourself in a hostile work environment or being belittled or shunned from the rest of the groups in the organization, that's a point in time when you might really want to start talking to HR and try to come up with a resolution, especially if you really love your job. There's no reason for you to have to change jobs because you become a targeted individual in an organization. Number 3 is taking your work seriously. If you make a mistake, fess up when you mess up. Don't brush it off. Don't develop a bad attitude about it. Just fix whatever needs to be fixed. Accept responsibility in what went wrong. Sometimes at work, you will always learn that there's the potential to face failure. That is just part of self-development in your career industry. Learn from the mistake or the accident that was made and go forward. Depending on the career field that you're in, it can be very challenging to adjust accordingly. Number 4 is speak up when work isn't getting done on time or when there are problems with projects. All right, so I will be the first person to admit I don't like to work in a team setting. And anymore in this day and age, every employer wants to have an individual that will engage in a team setting. So I have to be really proactive about putting myself out there. I'm an individual that goes, okay, I'm responsible for this project. I'm going to do the whole thing. I'm going to take care of all of it, and it's going to be done right. And there's no reason to do that anymore. So many people that encompass the idea that I can do it all better than anybody else, they really have to rethink, because accepting and taking other people's input into a situation can really help you be successful in the long run and save you a lot of time as well, because other areas people have expertise in as well that maybe you're not so strong at. So learn to speak up, taking part. Your ownership, I guess, is the big part that I want you to look at in this. Being responsible, alerting the correct people when you see something not working correctly. Maybe you don't have the authority to change things, but with the proper parties being notified, you can go about being able to fix these issues and be very successful. Number 5 in this list in the article was realizing that getting feedback on your work, even critical feedback, which means you got to swallow your pride sometimes, is part of the job. But don't take it personally. If you start internalizing every single thing that someone says to you or corrects you on, they're not doing it to reprimand you. They're doing it to help you grow as an individual in your career field. I don't know anyone who has never made a mistake in their professional life before that can't be fixed. So really think about that. Internalize that critical feedback and really determine whether or not maybe I do need to change that. Maybe you come into work and you get a chip on your shoulder and you're mad at the world, but does that necessarily mean that you're trying to be mean to maybe the person that shares the cubicle next to you or another fellow coworker? Not necessarily, but you have to be really critical and self-assess you as an individual. When you hit that door at work, you check that mark at the door and you leave anything personal that's going on in your life at that door. It's important that you can do that. Number 6, needing the ability to write clearly and professionally. Some of you I may have had in CSS 101, some of you I may have had in other classes along the way, but it is very important that you have the capabilities of writing clear and professionally in any communications that you have, whether it's for documents for a doctor, whether it's your charting, whether it's reports for IT, whether it's doing a contract for a graphic arts individual that's contracting with you, whether it's a business person going out there and presenting their business plan or marketing recommendations or consulting recommendations. It's really important that you check your spelling, that you make sure that you've hit all the components that need to be addressed. Any little errors can open up businesses to extreme liability, so it's important that you really pay attention to that and make sure that you don't use texting language. I know that I get after students sometimes for using LOL and lowercase I, and it's really important that you pay attention to that when you are writing, because we are a very slang-driven community or environment anymore where a lot of people text shorthand. So just really pay attention to that when you're sending out critical information. Number 7 is being flexible. Yes, you work from 8 to 5 and that's your schedule. However, there's going to be days when you can't just walk off the job at 5 o'clock and go clock out and go home. There might be a day when your boss goes, corporate's coming in, we got to have this place top to bottom in immaculate position. Maybe it's the filing department, maybe we need to get charting caught up to date. Whatever it is, you need to be flexible enough to work with your employer. I guarantee you they do remember you later down the road for going the extra mile for them to be successful. I'm not saying that they should ask you to do it all the time, but they do appreciate when you give a little bit more of you in the work environment. That shows that you're there for more than just a paycheck, that you're committed to the overall success of the organization. Being flexible, changing work plans. Maybe I call and go, such and such called out sick today. Can you please work the 12 to 8 shift? I know you were scheduled for the early shift. Is that going to be a possibility? Again, don't let them take advantage of you, but when you can adjust your schedule accordingly, really work with those employers. Number 8, show up reliably. I don't care what else you do, but reliability is everything. If you are hired to work at a job and you call out more than probably 2 times in a 6-month period, you really need to reassess the situation that you're in. Yes, we get sick. You can still go to work sick, depending on the career field you're in. Not all career fields you can go to work sick. But you can either be sick at home or you can be sick at work getting your work accomplished. That's kind of the philosophy I live by. I'm sick while I still come here because you know what? I have students that count on me. You may have patients that count on you. You may have customers or clients that count on you to be there to make sure that business functions correctly. Because not only do you put the employer in a bind, you also put your fellow coworkers in a bind, because now they have to pick up that extra 8 or 10-hour shift of hours that you have in there and do all those extra duties on top of what they're already doing. And sometimes people get a little perturbed and maybe they won't be as receptive to you, and that can be a big part of the culture in an organization. If it's socially acceptable to just call in sick all the time, well then I'm going to tell you that organization probably isn't going to be very profitable, or your paychecks aren't going to be very pretty either. Employers count on you, you count on the employer to be successful and be able to pay your bills. So be committed, okay? Whatever it takes, rise above it. Number 9 is being helpful and doing more than just solely your own job description. Most employers anymore actually give you a job description when you begin working with them. There is by no means a way that they can develop absolutely every possible thing that you might be asked to do in a job description for you to sign and only be accountable for. Even here at the school, associate deans, adjunct faculty, other faculty, Helena, the director of the school, we all take on additional responsibilities as needed because we're a team, and being a team is extremely essential. Communication is essential. If we don't communicate with one another and a student has an issue or concern, we can address them in the best possible manner. And it works both for your clients or your patients or whoever it is, whatever industry you're in. You've got to move beyond that. I'm not telling you that you have to do rocket science work. You just have to be able to stretch beyond those set boundaries that so many people expect that that's all they have to do in their position. And number 10, don't treat your manager as your adversary. If you don't have even a semi-decent manager, she wants to see you do well and isn't your enemy. So sometimes we may not particularly like our direct supervisors. However, it's very difficult sometimes to change that individual. As long as you are doing what is directed of you to do, you are keeping documentation, you are performing your job at the best possible standards that you are, you have to continue treating that person as a team member that you respect. They do have authority over you, and you're all working towards the same goal. You've always got to remember, when your supervisor's in not such a great mood, that means they're probably getting it from higher above or their supervisor. So everything tends to run downhill, and I want you to really think about that the next time you judge somebody maybe that you have to answer to, because I guarantee you they're not doing it because they enjoy being mean to you. They're doing it because the pressure is on for them to perform, or they're going to be the ones that are getting in trouble in their career. So just really think about that. Always offer to see what you can do to go above and beyond to make sure that everything's getting accomplished. I just thought this article was really important because so many times we don't stop and think about what it means to be professional in the workplace. Sometimes we just go and we play and we do whatever, and then we go home and we don't think about the repercussions of what could happen later down the road. So just really think about that when you get out into your career industries. All right, we're going to go a little bit deeper here. I'm going to jump over into the module section of CSS 299. I just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with what the requirements are for this class. It's not very difficult. You're just going to be providing me with some information as we go along. You're going to be going through and developing a rough draft industry resume. I don't care if it's beautiful right now. You're going to just be turning in what you have as a resume. We are going to be locating this week. You'll see week 1 homework. You're going to need to go out there and you're going to locate 3 different jobs that you would like to apply for. Even if you're not quite exactly qualified all the way with the degree that you're getting, I really want you to select a job. Find one that has a pretty good job description with it, what the requirements are, what the responsibilities are, etc. Out of the 3 that you find for this job search, you're going to be providing me the URL link so I can get to the job search and I can review the information when you turn that in. You're going to be developing right here this rough draft industry resume towards one of those 3 jobs. We're going to do that starting in week 3. Right now, all I want is just the most basic resume you've got on your hand that you've completed already that we can look at. This week, you also have the opportunity to go in and do an assessment. The assessment is located under the reading and tools up here. When you get in there, it's going to ask you, I think it's asking for you to either pick 2 or 3. I'm not going to open it up right now, but go in there and really assess yourself as an individual. Figure out whether or not you would have picked those as your top strengths or not versus some of the others that pop up in there. And maybe also look at your lower limits, maybe the things that are not your strengths. It'll actually give you, I can't remember how many come up, but there's about 10 or 15 that pop up in the process of taking this little assessment, and really develop some thought about this for your discussion post this week. It is due this evening. Today is Wednesday, and it needs to be submitted by 11:59 p.m. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the discussion post so we can talk a little bit about that. All right, so as I shared, the link is embedded up earlier in the reading and whatnot. So for this purpose, you're going to be sharing 2 of your 5 strengths and your understandings of what that strength means. Also identifying a time when you've demonstrated that strength in your employment and or educational experience. So there's an example down here. of what someone has posted in the past. It's important that you really think about what your strengths are. Sometimes we spend way too much time focusing on the negative characteristics that we have. Oh, I'm a procrastinator. Oh, I'm a slacker. Well, I know that's things that we all need to work on, and we are all aware that we have these little tendencies or hang-ups that we need to work on. But if we spend more time focusing on the negative aspects of our performance versus the positive things that we can do, that's really going to hurt your performance, and it's going to hurt your professional performance for an employer. You know, the article we were just looking at about what does it mean to be professional? I don't know if any of you had Dr. Miner. His big push here at the school was K, S, and D, and you might remember these letters. K stood for knowledge, S stood for skills, and then the disposition. You know, disposition is the part that I can't teach you. I can tell you about it, I can model it, I can try to show you that demeanor, but it's really hard because you, as your own unique individual, have been raised in different demographics, you've been raised by different parents, and we all have different ways of responding and dealing with maybe high stress situations or problems, or how we go about carrying on in our day-to-day life. So it's important that we really reassess that. You know, earlier I had said something about checking your problems at the door. You don't take your problems to work. I know some of the biggest things that I hear from employers say is, I wish that employees that are coming out of school would learn not to use the word like so much. If I could just stricken the word like from my language, things would be great at my organization, because that, again, that is unprofessional slang. Just like with writing with texting language, you don't want to do that. You're not going to be looked at as a professional if you are not providing the top-notch you every time you go to work. You know, if you're having relationship problems, if you're having family problems, to an extent, we all face challenges and obstacles that spring up. I know that. Life happens. But making sure that we give our 100%, because you know what? The one stable that can be in our life is our job, is our commitment to work. Family is always going to be there. It's going to be good times. There's going to be bad times. But you just really have to keep that in the back of your mind. Employers will work with you, but you have to communicate with them. And I think that's something that all of the faculty really preaches to you here, is the importance of communicating. When something's not working for you, you've got to let us know. Otherwise, we can't assist you in being successful. I'm going to go back over to modules again, and we're going to go up into another section about how to write a resume. I'm going to click right on here, the reading and tools. I'm pretty sure that's where it's located at in here. Give it just a minute to open up. And down, pretty sure it's down at the bottom here. All right, so down here, so there's a career resource packet that I really encourage you to open up and go through. But I'm going to pop open this PowerPoint that talks a little bit about, you know, being able to build a better resume. Because you could go to 10 different people, and 10 different people could tell you different ways to go about developing your resume. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this and get it opened up, and we'll take a look at it. I'm almost open, getting there, getting closer. All right, so let's jump into this PowerPoint here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of being able to build a better resume. When we get going, what is the purpose of the resume? Anymore, it seems like we don't get to meet people face to face when we go to fill out a job application. Anymore, we'll go in, and we'll ask, they'll say, you need to go online to this and this, or they'll hand you a card and say, apply here. So there's not that personal contact anymore, which is sometimes difficult because sometimes appearance and demeanor can sell your presence. Now you've got to somehow get this miraculous you composed into a resume. It has to speak for who you are when you're not present. So being able to project, some of your great accomplishments that you've had in there. You don't want to have a super long resume. I know that there's been the banter back and forth. Oh, we only need a one-page resume. 2-page resumes are okay. I tell students, put on there what you think reflects to the particular job that you're applying for. If you're applying for a medical assisting position, you're not going to want to put on there your janitorial, or that you worked at Faure-King, or that you had all of this other experience that really might not truly relate to being a medical assistant, or higher, or different career for that matter. But think about it for a minute. All right, so if we talk about McDonald's, well, you worked there for 3 years. You spent 3 years of your life. So thinking about transferable skills. I don't want to see it truly listed on your resume applying for this industry-specific job, but I want you to think about the specific skill sets that you can take out of that job experience and get those listed in your resume. Being able to convey your accomplishments. What kind of awards did you win? What kind of education do you have? What kind of great volunteer work do you have, or community involvement do you have? Employers absolutely love to hear about what you do to give back to the community. Being able to market, some of your professional skills is essential for you getting the job. If you bury it down at the bottom that you have a degree, or that you have certain languages, if you're in computer sciences, or if you're in business and you have great marketing skills or great customer service skills, or you're a phenomenal writer, all of these can become transferable skill sets for you to be able to embed into your resume to help you better sell you. That's what a key resume is all about. That's what lands you this amazing thing right here called an interview. I always tell students, if you go out and you've applied for maybe 3 or 4 jobs within the past month or past couple weeks and you're not getting a hit on the resume, try to call the organization. If you're not getting anything there, or maybe you just get some rejection letters via email that, thank you for applying. I've seen many of those in my time as well. Appreciate your interview, but we've selected another candidate. Don't let that get to you. What I want you to do is to go back and reassess your resume and really make sure that you read those job descriptions that are posted to make sure those keywords are in there. Sometimes generators pick up on keywords, and we'll work on this in this class as well for the industry-specific resume. So preparation, like what I was just talking about, what the heck are the keywords? Go through the job announcement. Find what's important. Highlight the words, action words, and describe what they're looking for in terms of your skill sets, your qualifications, and your experience. You have got to paint a picture of you, because they can't look across the desk and say, hey, tell me what you can do. What have you done? Have you done this? Have you done that? Your piece of paper, your resume has to sell you. Step number 2, determine how you're going to use your information to target your resume towards that specific job. Students sometimes go, oh, I got a general resume. I'm just going to turn this in. It's good to go. Well, that general resume, it's okay to have a generic, but maybe not when you're applying specifically to a certain type of a position. It always could come in handy, so at least you've got some information you can get to them quickly. But this should be a living, breathing document that changes and evolves with you. When you get certifications, or when you get new employment, or when you do new volunteer work. So you've got to constantly keep this fresh and updated. For example, in my current job as a waitress, and I want to work as a receptionist position at a law office. So as I was sharing earlier, you know, the janitor or working at McDonald's, what can you carry over that really resonates with a receptionist position in a law office? So say, for example, down in the PowerPoint slide here, it says customer service is key. So when you start thinking about the variables as a waitress, well, you engage with customers, you provide service, you're pleasant. What happens if you're not pleasant in a waitressing position? It's no different than in a professional law office, right? The clientele can be very unhappy. Fluffing pillows, you know, if you were a maid in a hotel, that's another example in here. Fanning magazines and making things look pretty and beautiful and keeping everything intact. Creating documents. All of us have used Word or PowerPoint or Excel. Sell them the skill sets that you can offer to them. Certifications are another thing. I mentioned that just a few minutes ago. If you've got your phlebotomy cert, if you have your C++ or your JavaScript or your, I can't remember all the different languages, JavaScript or whatever else it is that you might have out there. If you've got your HR certification, if you've got this, if you've got that, you need to highlight those positives in your environment that you can bring to this job setting. Big thing over here, this cute little clip, it all started when I was born. This is a resume, not an autobiography. I don't want the last 30 or 40 years of your life. I want maybe 5 years back in time. I want jobs that are skill related to your specific job that you're applying for. Maybe you don't have any work experience. Maybe you're fresh out of school and you never held a job before. Well, let's doctor that resume up with your school experience. It can be done. I can show you. You just need to ask. Approved fonts. The one I always recommend for students to use is going to be Times New Roman. However, sometimes students want to get a little more artsy, so these are for the most accepted when developing resumes to really make sure that you have a professional looking document to present to these potential employers. You can bold, you can use italics to make your resume pop, you can use capitalization or underlining to be able to get the reader to look closely at your resume. I went to a career fair, probably, it's been, well, I've been to a few others, but I actually sat in, it was 3 years ago, down at the Riverside Hotel here in Boise, and there was a gentleman there. He prepared resumes professionally and was talking about using pictures in your resume, and it really truly depends on the career field you're going into. If you're a graphic artist, you want to kind of show your style. If you're a computer web designer, web developer, you might want to flaunt some of the skill sets that you have in a fancier resume. The one thing I always have to warn about, though, is sometimes those generators won't read fancy. So if you can get everything converted to a real basic Microsoft Word document, you're going to be a lot more successful. You never, in my opinion, you never really want to use color, black and white. You can change, you know, font size maybe just a little bit for pop key items or some of the subheaders that you're using, but don't really get wild with it. Don't be using reds and blues and yellows to highlight some of your skill sets. Use the basic black and use some of these the italics and the bolding or the underlining to get the reader to pay more attention. You know, there's a lot of argument about, well, do I center my information? Do I make my name bigger? Do I push all my information to the left? Do I push all my information to the right? As long as you've got your contact information, you're going to be okay. You want to make sure that on your resume, on your reference page, on your cover letter, all of your information matches. I see that's one of the biggest errors. Say, for example, maybe you haven't had to apply for a job in a couple years and you're in a hurry and you just submit this application. It says it wants a resume and maybe you've got a new phone number. Maybe this employer really wants to hire you. Maybe you'd forgotten to put your email address on there. They have no way to contact you. Not good. So make sure just to do a quick overview or a brief review before you send out that resume. Watch for typos in your resume. There's nothing worse than getting a resume. First thing that happens with a typo, boom, it's in the garbage. That person was in too much of a hurry to proofread. If I'm hiring you for an office environment, especially maybe a legal secretary, you're not going to get the job because I need perfection in that type of an industry. Same with any career field that comes out of our school here. You need the ability to write to be successful. The other thing that is important is making sure that you have a professional email account. In this, you can see where it's a janice.jenkins at whatever the email or Gmail or Yahoo account. Well, you don't want to do toilmegoblins99 at gmail.com. You don't want to have anything that might make that employer think twice. Or unicornrainbows299 at gmail.com. You really want to make sure, I mean, if you have a personal email that you use to talk back and forth with friends and you have to have a cutesy email, that's okay for that, but not for your professional resume. Another thing, if you have a LinkedIn account, some of you may by this point in your educational career have a LinkedIn account. I encourage you to reach out and connect with the instructors here at the school. All of us pretty much have a LinkedIn account. Helena Hansen, the director of the school, Glenn in technology, myself, all of your faculty that work with you through your entire program. We all have these accounts. So I encourage you to connect with us because that opens up more potential employers for you to see job postings. It's a great place anymore. A lot of employers are starting to utilize this LinkedIn. When you create it, you can actually have your own link here that you can send those employers. If they're interested in you, they can click on this LinkedIn account and they can go right over to your profile and view your information. It's pretty awesome how all this technology connects together. You can, maybe you have some of your work embedded in there. You want to make sure your resume in there matches the resume that you've sent out to them. Really make sure that you keep everything current all the time. All right, so resumes are written in the present and or past tense in the first person. Omit the word I from your resume, if at all possible. No personal pronouns, we, he, she, etc. Be really careful with that. Direct and to the point. Never use the words responsible for. Well, I can say I'm a violator of that. I typically use those words. Like I said earlier, there's no right or wrong way, but try to stay clear of that. Maybe give them the direct responsibilities or list the direct responsibilities out that you took care of in the particular position that you listed to showcase your skill sets for this next potential job. Awards, another thing, the results of something else that you did leading to the action that resulted in your achievement. Talk about what you did to improve the environment in the organization in which you worked for. The next section here is, specific knowledge, professional summary. What are your talents, or what does your education have in common that ties you to the career interests that you have? What are some of the work attributes that you need to sell about you that you think are your strong points to get you through that door and into an interview and hopefully into the position that you're applying for? Most of the time, these professional summaries, they don't have to be very substantive. They can be a one-liner. Something catchy that's going to get that employer's eye when he sees that resume. Something that's going to make it pop. Because, there's nothing worse than sitting at your desk on a Friday afternoon, kick back going, okay, I need to get a job posting out. I need to hire. I got a stack of resumes over here. And maybe they start flipping through. Yeah, they've all been printed on the same paper, so even fancy paper is not going to save you at this point. But something on that resume catches their attention, whether it's the font or the design or the setup of your resume. they pick it up and they like it. And when they see it and they like it, you're going to get the call and you're going to get an interview. So you've always got to keep that in mind as you're going through to set that up. Areas of expertise. What are you really good at? What are your competency skills? What areas of expertise do you have? So highlighting your key skills areas, bringing better attention to the skill set that you can offer to the company. You know, if you're a pro at Excels or you're a pro at Office Suites and you've got certifications in that, really build it up. What kind of licensures do you have? What kind of memberships do you have that are relevant to the career that you're in? And then listing different security clearances. Sometimes military individuals like to go and list that they had a certain clearance when they were in the military. Whatever it might be that is required for the position, try to hit every one of those key words that are listed in that job description. That is going to be key, especially for generators out there. When they go through and review the information, they want to see those buzzwords. When they see them, more than likely, they're going to pick up the phone or they're going to have their secretary or whoever does their HR handling call you to set up an interview. The STAR method. This is kind of a cute way to think about information. Thinking about the situation, the context that you were or are working in, task, what was being done in the organization that you were working for, action words, what you did or are doing to achieve the goals at the organization in which you're working for, and then the end results. What kind of warm, fuzzy, great things did you do to make a difference in that organization? Maybe if you're a medical student, maybe you went into this as an administrator and you got in there and everything was all paper, everything was paper files, they hadn't begun to merge anything, and you were able to go out, you got the doctor's permission to go ahead and scan files and set up everything electronically, and maybe all of a sudden 5 rooms full of paperwork became stored in a nice database and backed up, so if there was ever any glitches, that information would still be attainable. What kind of positive contributions did you make to help the organization be successful? Situations, you know, were you in charge of the personnel or the programs? Right here, how many personnel did you deal with? How big was the organization? You might have been a manager of 3 people, but you still need to provide the information of what it is that you did to oversee and some of the expectations that you were required to do. Supporting personnel, maybe you're an HR manager and you need to make sure that maybe, I don't know, let's talk about COBRA, which is, you know, the continuance of insurance needs to be taken care of for maybe employees that leave the organization, or maybe they're on maternity leave or something happened or who knows. But making sure that you explain what it is that you did in your role. What was it that you did? Results? Okay, well, maybe I was the hiring manager and I was able to do the best training ever because retention was great. When retention means being able to maintain employees, was really good. That shows that I was doing my job properly, because one of the most common reasons why employees leave a job is because of lack of training. And it's one of the most costly parts for any organization is hiring, firing, and training. You just get somebody up and running and all of a sudden they put their notice in and leave. Or maybe the person starts the job and they go the first day and they're not good communicators and they just don't show up ever again. So all of this costs to make sure that they get people onboarded adequately. So whatever it is that you can paint the picture that you did. You don't need to write a novel though. I just need you to have, you know, a short enough blurb to paint a picture of what it is that you did. All right, so building accomplishment statements, you know, talking about how you did it as part of a small team of personnel, you know, that's how you did it. your results, ensuring that families' goods were transported in a safe, or timely, efficient manner. Maybe if you worked in a doctor's office, we had this policy that I had to greet the customer when they came through the front door of the patient within 10 seconds. So whether it's just an acknowledgement or getting them to the front desk to complete paperwork, how long were they sitting in the lobby? Do I have signs up to, whatever it is that you made that place a better place to be. And then including quantifiable information. How did you increase performance? This is something you'll have to think about for professional development plans later on in your career as well. We'll talk more about these later on, probably in week 3. But professional development plans, or PDPs, are how you tell your employer when they review your performance for the year and why you deserve a raise. Why should I give you any more money? You need to be able to justify that, especially in Idaho, where we're a right-to-work state. Most of the time, it's just a process. We go in, we sign paperwork, you did good, you did bad, you need to fix that. But it's really important that if you're doing something above and beyond that maybe your boss is not very good at recognizing that. And that can happen as well. They might say thank you, but sometimes the monetary means a lot to a person, and so a raise could really maybe help them not have to worry so much about daycare, or not have to worry so much about, am I going to be able to meet my rent payment this month, or whatever it is that you have to do to make sure to paint the picture of what you did to improve the organization. Just different, accomplishment statements, what did or can do. Maybe for a level 1, okay, you repaired vehicles. That's kind of really generic. You need to go a little deeper, and you'll see the 3-4 different steps here that they've talked about. Your range of abilities. What else can you do? Well, you repaired vehicles. Well, what kind of vehicles? Were they big trucks? Were they semis? Were they cars? Were they trucks? Were they foreign vehicles? There's all these different things that employers might be looking to know. But down here, this level 4 is pretty awesome. So maybe as a mechanic, you repaired brakes, replaced radiators, and completed oil changes on a variety, there you go, of different vehicle models, both foreign and domestic, ensuring the safety, keywords here, and satisfaction of customers, reflecting customer service, while adhering to the company's mandates and directives. Right there, it's telling me that you followed policy, and I love to hear that when people are aware that there are directives or ways things need to be accomplished, leading to an increase, I'm making the company money, in customers returning of 8% over a period of 3 years. And they give the timeline. If it was 8% over a year, I might go, okay, that was just a fluke, but return customers are very essential. And employers like to track that for performance. So that might be something really beneficial for you to look closely at when you're developing, the description of what you did in your job. There's some more examples in here that you can go through and look at. We're going to jump into education. And so the biggest thing I want you to do is remember that showing that you have the degree is huge. Anymore, I've seen a lot of people actually listing education very first on their resume, like, well, that's pretty bold. But then I go, this is career specific. So boom, here it is. Maybe if you don't want to list your education first, you might go in there and list your certifications first if you're applying for a medical assisting position, or administrative. Maybe you want to put work experience first. It all kind of depends on the job posting, and what that employer is looking for that means the most in that posting. In job descriptions, you'll see sometimes that they repeat information or words, or they'll list it multiple times over and over and over. Another recommendation here too, you'll see this down below, is don't include your high school diploma or GED information. That's not relevant at this point in time. I mean, if that's the only degree you have, well, then you would do that. You are now college educated individuals getting ready to graduate. You're in CSS 299. So you really kind of need to knock that off. The other reason I tell you to do that as well is employers are not supposed to judge you based off date. Well, maybe if they look at mine and they see you graduated, what, in 1969? What the heck? That person's old. Why would I want to hire that person? And that can cause some stereotyping and some issues. So with education, you can get your degrees, or associates, bachelor's, When you're fresh out of high school, you can go and in 2 years you have your associates, a few years later, or you can come back when you're 50 or 60 or 70 years old and get your associate's degree and then your bachelor's degree. That's not as leading of a question. So you can kind of see how that's set up with a little hanging cliff. They don't put the particular month. You know, when you do graduate, you can put the month in which you graduated. That's fine. Very important. You know, you might put a little star or an asterisk down here if you made the dean's list. That kind of makes it pop just a little bit. And we can play with the aesthetics of your resumes. Once you get them into me the first go around, I'll probably make some recommendations. And like I said, these are your resumes. I could tell you, do it this way and that's the only way I want to see them, but that's not the case. This resume is a reflection of you. I want to give you pointers to make it the best it possibly can be, but just keep that in mind. Take my recommendations, think about them, play with it, mess with it, look at it, apply it. If you don't like it, change it back. Consistency is key. Making sure that, you know, your professional statements are the same. Booger, this is kind of a cute little comic down here, versus blogger. Well, maybe you had a typo in your resume and you're sitting right there and you're like, ouch, that hurts. Have somebody else too. Nothing worse. You know, if we spend a lot of time on a document, sometimes if you're like me, I'll space it and I'll overlook a typo, or maybe my sentence structure isn't very good. Have someone else read your resume for you. And if there's no one else to read it, have yourself read it out loud, and you will more than likely catch the errors if you hear yourself reading the things out loud from your resume. And that is the end of the PowerPoint for how to build a better resume. There's a lot of information out there that you can go to and look at and review, but I really encourage you to utilize a lot of these resources that are in here. I know I'm getting close to about my hour mark. I'm going to go ahead and open the career resource packet here real quick. I've got just probably a little less than 5 minutes to get this in here. We'll take this a little bit deeper next time. I will be recording every session for the students, so if you don't make it and you have questions, please reach out to me. Let me go ahead and get this opened here just so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's a pretty big packet in general. Give me just a second here and we'll get this opened up. All right, so it's in color. Everything's been put together pretty well in this packet. There might be a few things that need to be updated. I haven't been in here for a little while, but there's all kinds of information that can help you be successful. Once I get it to start scrolling down, you know, it gives you a table of contents, how to write a master resume, introductions. There's all kinds of different information for you to be able to utilize when you get in here. I'll get that off there. We'll be there. Now it's all pretty again. I have to get the paragraphs off there. When we get in here, you know, career portfolios, what they are and what they should be composed of, talking about how to create the perfect portfolio, getting cover letters prepared. We're going to be doing that in this class. I really don't recommend that you use 3-ring binders. I don't like it unless you put them down in sleeves. Don't punch holes in your resumes to be giving out. That's not recommended. Letters of recommendation, we'll talk a little bit about how to go out and ask for that information as well. As you scroll through, I really highly encourage you to look through this, and it talks about cover letters and what cover letters should look like, what an outline should look like when you're setting it up, what you need to tell them in each of the paragraphs. So please, just when you get a chance, next week we're going to be doing your reference list and we're going to be doing your cover letters for this industry-specific resume that you're going to be creating and actually applying for the job. You won't be sending it to the actual employer. You're going to act like I, your amazing instructor, am the employer, and you're going to send everything to me in a professional email with all these attachments. But it's going to take a little bit of work. But this class isn't super difficult, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a great learning process for you to know what is really needed to be successful in the career industry. I'm just going to kind of keep scrolling, you know, resume guidelines. It's buried a little bit deeper in here, what some of the content is and what it needs to be, what a master resume is and how to target resumes. You know, this is what we're doing this week. So it might be really beneficial. Well, I'm going to say it's going to be beneficial for you to go in here and read this information and get more detail. I know there's a ton of information out there on the internet as well. If you can't find it in these resources, go out and Google it. If you're not finding something that works for you, find something that does. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, ask questions, shoot me emails. I would love to do these sessions live if possible. So next time, today I was unable to do a live session with everyone, but next class period, I have Carrie, who's out in Mountain Home, that I will be Zooming the session to. And so if there's other students that's interested in me Zooming it directly to you instead of attending on campus, that can be arranged. I just need to know in advance. So please call me in my office or shoot me a quick email so I know what's going to work best for your schedules. Number here in my office is 208-383-4540, and my extension's 1807. My personal cell number is 208-392-3228. And you can also shoot me an email at my Stevens Henniger email address. It's the stephanie.spivak@stevenshenniger.edu. That is embedded in the syllabus. If you need to get all that information, my contact information is there as well. Some really cool things too to think about is action words. You saw in the PowerPoint that we went through just a few minutes ago. Some of the key words that you want to really get in there. Motivated. Oh, it's one of my favorite words. Orderly, obtained, formulated, assembled. You know, action words. Researched. You know, if you're going into a research type field, really important to be able to show that you apply and get involved in the process. Like I said, there's a ton more information in here. Here's a sample setup resume. You know, I was talking earlier about, you know, it doesn't have to be here. It can be lined up over here if you like it better, or lined up over here. Statement or statement of purpose. We've changed this a little bit. You know, you can put a summary, or there's all kinds of different words. So I encourage you to research that just a little bit and figure out some different ways to set this up. I do things a little differently. I always put my data off to the side over here. I played with Teggy's resume last night and played around with a little bit. And I said, okay, let's try this and see if this works. Let's go around when you apply for a job. So it's really important to mess with your resumes. Like I said, it's important to make sure that you are being creative in your resumes. All right, now you saw earlier also in the PowerPoint that it said responsible for. Try to stay away from using that language when you're setting that up. Again, you might want to bold your volunteer information or professional affiliations that you belong to. I do a lot of volunteer work, so I have volunteer work on there. And, you know, if it goes over one page, be my guest. But again, there's more and more and more and more resumes in here for you to look at to give you a better idea of what you need to do. Chronological resumes. There's the basic resume. That would be more like your general resume setup. Sorry if I'm going fast. I'm down to about a minute and it's going to shut off. So next time we'll pick up more and we'll talk more about these different styles of resumes. Again, like I said, great getting to talk to all of you, even though this is just a recorded session. Please reach out to me if you need my help, and I hope you enjoy this, how I've got this set up with the Zoom session. I'm going to try to do more of these in courses going forward. So again, thanks, and I hope you have a great weekend, and I will either see you on the internet or I will see you in class. Thank you. Bye-bye.